Welcome to the CEN show, the voice of the world community. Our website, communityeducationnetwork.com, is a platform on the internet that features two podcasts, a forum designed to stimulate meaningful dialogue, a perspective writing section with works from Brother Thomas and Raski Maskani, that's myself, a recommendation section with services and products, a legends section authored by Raski Mastani, which is me, which features one of our team members, Professor Amin Ra. He's in attendance this evening. A community actions page that features the Black Table, authored by one of our team members, Dr. Terry Strong. The About section that features our intent and the team members. And finally, the homepage where you can contact us and access our podcast. So let me show that, people, for you. All right. So here's the website. This is our homepage. And as you can see at the top, we have our pages. The home page, which is right here, and then we can access both our podcasts. And you can also access the other pages at the bottom here, and then also at the top, the About section, the podcast section. We have all of our podcasts on there, which are in audio form. We got the perspective writings, legends, community actions, the forum, and then recommendations. So that's how you get access everything. All right. So Brother Kwabena sent me he's one of our recent guests. He sent me a YouTube video of Professor Amin Ra and Ava Muhammad. That's about 31 years and some months ago, back in 1990 at the Black Consciousness Conference held at Long Beach State. And I recommend that you check it out. And here it is. Let me show you. It's on YouTube. Here it is. There go Professor Amin Ra. You can see that was 32 years ago if you see him now, but he looks the same. All right. All righty. So check it out. Very good video. I can't wait to listen to it all. I listened to some of it already. All right. I am your host, Raski Maskani. Tonight's topic is reproductive evolution. All offspring must pay it forward. The guest for this evening is one of our team members, Brother Thomas. He always provides us with significant constructive information that must be revealed, in my humble opinion. Good evening, Brother Thomas. Welcome back. Tell us something about yourself, and please, begin your presentation.
Greetings, family. I'd like permission from Baba Ra to continue my presentation.
You have it.
Thank you, sir. My name is Brother Tommy Muhammad. I've been a member of the Nation of Islam for over 30 years. I'm currently a English language arts educator at Compton Unified School District at Dominguez Hills High School. I am an autodidactician, self-learner, researcher, observer of the Black man and woman's condition nationally and worldwide. I feel like I'm divinely inspired to look at the world in a different way. And whenever that occurs, I put my hands to the keyboard and start writing what I feel I'm guided to express. And this is a topic that I was guided to express early in the morning concerning the reproductive practices of Black people nationally and worldwide that are compromising the evolutionary path of our people. We've inherited practices from a foreigner who never practiced reproduction properly, who violated every law of the proper and natural way to reproduce, and in turn has compromised his evolutionary path. And now we are falling victim to the same results. And I would just love to offer some of my information to you in hopes that I can elicit discussion, thought, constructive criticism as well. So my presentation today is called Reproductive Evolution of All Offspring Must Pay It Forward. There's no option. If an individual starting off as a spermatozoa and an ovum at that time were permitted to connect, to evolve from a single cell, multiple cell into a fetus, eventually to a human being, and they fought the odds of impossibility within a foreign environment of the womb of a woman to do so, they owe it to their species, their parents, their great grandparents to do the same, to continue that process, to ensure that the species, group of people, continues to multiply, to maintain their reproductivity and evolve, become greater than the previous generations. And there's a process that needs to take place in order for that to happen that we have lost sight of. My position is that as a product of the sacrifice that the progenitors of the species made to ensure the birth, nurturing, growth, and maturation of offspring, all progeny are required to pay it forward by exercising optimal lifestyle practices and an ideal mating selection ritual that will lead to them eventually producing offspring of the highest quality as well, and the continued evolution of their species. The problem that I've noticed and that I've been inspired to kind of bring to the table was humanity is plagued with the normalization of immature or ineffective mating selection rituals, irresponsible reproductive practices, and the legalization of anti-copulative relationships, resulting in the stagnation of human evolution. One major aspect of the problem is that we've either have decided to not exercise, or we're not aware of the evolutionary stages required of every living organism in order for us to reproduce and evolve. That means producing and reproducing offspring that surpass the previous generation in preparation for future trials, tribulations that the current and past generations were not qualified to address and overcome, because they were created to address and overcome the trials, tribulations in their specific era. The 7 stages are, of course, birth, and then nourishment, growth, maturity or maturation, mature, ideal mate selection, reproduce or reproduction, and then evolve or evolution. Those are the 7 stages that everybody's required to do, regardless of what behavior and what mindset the offspring has been conditioned to practice or believe, or has been poisoned to practice or believe. These are the 7 that every living organism on the planet practices by nature. And as a superior organism, we are supposed to exemplify these 7 stages. We're supposed to exemplify them to continue to maintain our qualification to be the superior organism on the planet, the so-called super predator. We need to exemplify these 7 stages. Statement of cause: the improper mate selection process. We don't choose the proper mate to reproduce or instead we choose an unqualified mate to reproduce offspring with. We don't have a proper mating selection ritual that, like all other animals do. Certain fish have to build a nest that is strong enough and secure enough to protect the female and offspring that they produce. Certain males must fight each other to show the prowess and qualification of mating, so the female can pick the strongest and most qualified male to mate with to ensure that the offspring are the most strong and qualified to survive the future of that species. Birds, the male birds, they perform a dance, or they get other male birds to help perform some type of presentation for the female to qualify for reproduction. And every female has a criteria, a personal litmus test that must be passed perfectly or to close to perfection for them to even consider to commit to that mating or reproductive act of producing offspring. We don't exercise that as a people. We get tipsy, we have one night stands, we fornicate, we commit adultery. We use reproductive acts as a recreation. And that goes into my second cause: premature reproductive practices, committing the act of mating and reproduction before the reproductive organs matured. There's something that I've noticed in doing my research about some of the ailments that we suffer from. And a lot of those elements have to do with the fact that we practiced reproductive acts prematurely before our reproductive organs actually were matured to be able to handle the impact and the whole trauma of reproduction. A male's prostate produces and emits semen into the testicles at an alarming rate. And it also endures the impact and the trauma of reproduction. When a child, a teenager, prematurely commits the act of reproduction and their prostate is not fully developed, that leads to prostate issues at a later age, as early as 40. Any organ or gland in our body that's overworked will fail. It will become cancerous. It will become toxic to the body. That's why people get colon cancer. That's why people get liver cancer, cirrhosis in the liver. That's why their internal organs, they get organ failure, because your organs have been working profusely throughout the whole life of the individual without fasting, without putting proper foods in the body that help to cleanse and rebuild organ tissue. The prostate, we suffer from prostate cancer, unfortunately the medical system hasn't put the 2 and 2 together, that premature reproductive activities causes major trauma and overwork of an underdeveloped prostate. Young ladies have cervical cancer, have a lot of reproductive issues when they also participate in premature reproductive activities. The trauma is so great. It has a erectile dysfunction effect on males, a prostate failure and compromisation of males, and it has women suffering from being sterile and unable to carry a child full term. Next, go on to irresponsible reproductive practices. This has to do with us, like I said earlier, committing the act of reproduction as a result of the normalization of fornication, adultery, and or treating the act of reproduction like a recreational activity. The term sex was invented by Caucasian people to demote the act of mating and reproduction into that of a recreational activity where little to no responsibility is practiced. To commit the act of bringing a life into the world, or that can lead to bringing a life into the world. And now chastity is abnormal, and promiscuity and fornication is becoming normal. Goes into my next one, single parent households. As a result of mass fornication, premarital reproductive behavior, and a high divorce rate due to improper mate selection, has resulted in a single parent household where now you have a child that's not exposed to an environment created by both parents to ensure that that child is safe, secure, harmonious, peaceful, is in a loving environment where two people of the opposite gender can fully expose them to what is to come for them as they grow and evolve into adulthood. A good example of relationship development and teaching them the rites of passage of how to make positive, constructive, proper decisions as it pertains to their growth, maturity, relationship, and mating selection. Abortion, the newest and most deadly prophylactic consisting of medical instrumentation and pharmaceuticals to intentionally cause a miscarriage of the fetus in vivo. And I said that it's the newest, the deadliest prophylactic, because that's what the whole issue is right now. It's not about my body, my choice. It's about using abortion as a prophylactic, because out of the result of irresponsible reproductive practices or a failed prophylactic. Let me use this as a final stage of a prophylactic to get rid of the pregnancy. This is totally inhumane. This is a direct violation of every single law that we were given to reproduce, preserve, and evolve our species, to commit acts and then kill the product of that act. Claiming my body, my choice. Giving the woman all the power to determine the life of the child that she agreed through opening her legs to possibly create. Statement of causes continued. Birth control practices, the use of counterproductive chemicals, products, and or prophylactics of any kind for the sole purpose to prevent the reproduction of offspring, self-explanatory. Drug use, ingesting, inhaling, intravenous, and or smoking counter-reproductive poisons. Rape and sexual assault, taking the natural right, power, and option from the female to reproduce with a man of whom she has thoroughly vetted to determine qualifications to mate and reproduce. pedophilia and pederasty, similar to rape and sexual assault, yet with the added violation of committing acts of reproduction with a minor whose reproductive organs have yet to mature. Anti-copulative relationships, the normalization and legalization of the same gender pseudo-marital relationships. And lastly, improper dietary lifestyle, consumption of foods that interfere with the fetal growth and development in vivo. Does anybody have any questions or comments before I move on?
I can go around the horn.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll start with Professor Rob. Professor Rob, question or comment so far? You're on mute. You're on mute, Professor Rob.
Yeah, I'm just still listening. Go ahead to the next.
Okay, Brother Doctor.
No question.
Miss Kathy.
Yeah, I find it quite interesting. They should have gave a class like this for integrated into the school system so we could have chose better mates to have children with. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Brother Hendrick.
Just one quick one. Well, what were the sources of material that you did your research with?
The sources that I used is just observing. Observing like studying how animals their mating rituals, and how important it is for animals to fulfill these rituals in order to ensure the preservation and the maintenance of their future generation, their offspring or whatnot. I also, researched and observed the reproductive practices of our people, but people in general, as an educator, and talking with students, talking with my family, friends, reading books on some of the things that we do and some of the ailments that we endure as a product of those irresponsible or premature reproductive practices. Like I said, brother, it's like divinely inspired. So when I get this, it's like it's a product of all the things that I've researched, and also a product of me just being fed the information on a divine level to me. Like making the comparison with the prostate and the premature sexual activity. When I talk to people, I've talked to doctors about it, and they were just like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and it's also just, I mean, bro, that's just basically it. This is coming from the heart, coming from the mind, coming from the observations, coming from me studying and watching a lot of different National Geographics dealing with other what animals do. But it's just coming from that perspective. The research that I'm gonna add to, because I wrote this, it's an essay. It's just researching some of the statistics that support this perspective, like the abortion rates, the issues with the body, and how we have to deal with erectile dysfunction and certain other things that kind of add a little bit of support to the reality that there's a problem that hasn't been stated, a problem that hasn't been taught in school, you know. But that's pretty much where my response, and what I've been able to get from the research and the divinely inspired information that I've also been able to receive.
Okay, Brother Machinda,
Was I through?
you have something else?
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm going to take up a lot of the time, but real quick, I'm trying to see how you come to the conclusions regarding the problems with the prostrate and cancer and like and stuff with the liver as a result of this promiscuity, if you will.
Yes, sir. It's a lot. Well, it's a lot of things in conjunction with premature reproductive activity. It also has to do with diet because the prostate is in between the rectum and the testicles. So that means that whatever you eat, if it's unhealthy and toxic, it passes the prostate to get to the rectum.
Excuse me, brother, real quick, I'm hip to the dietary part, but that's not what you expounded on.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know it to be a nutritional issue, but the way it came across from you is
Yes,
that
sir.
to this premature sex.
Exactly. Yeah, premature reproductive practices
No, where
prior to the prostate being mature prior to the reproductive organs being mature enough to handle the trauma as a result of the reproductive act. Yes, sir. And I came up with that conclusion based upon how not only the prostate, but other organs, other bodily parts respond to a premature activity, premature excessive activity prior to the organ being strong enough to endure the activity. It's just a logical conclusion of how the body works. That we're given stages of development, and with each stage of development, we're given a new skill based upon the successful growth prior to us getting that skill. Like when you're walking, a child doesn't walk until its legs are strong enough. It crawls, it hobbles on the floor, and when its legs are mature enough, it gets up to walk. It doesn't walk any time before that. When a young male is maturing and he's starting to produce semen, he can't have a wet dream until that happens. But that doesn't mean he should have, now that he's producing semen, he's ready to, his reproductive organs are mature enough to deal with the trauma and impact of reproduction. It means that his body is becoming capable and prepared to do so. But it doesn't mean he's qualified at that 13. His prostate hasn't even developed yet fully. It hasn't developed fully. So I took it from how the body naturally has to mature before it can commit to an act that is normally practiced by human beings, whether it's walking, talking, the tongue, the vocal cords, everything have to be ready and prepared for communication. Any aspect of it, that's where basically.
I understand the evolutionary steps to, from infancy into maturity and all of that. I just didn't see the relationship
Yes, sir.
of these diseases that you're talking, that you inferred was as a result of, the
Yes, sir.
the immature sexual activity. But you can go on with your presentation.
Thank you, brother.
Under somebody else, I'll come back later.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Brother Mashinda.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Thomas.
Walaikum salam, sir.
My condolences to the nation, Sister Ava. Heavy sister. Just my
Praise
condolences.
be to Allah. Thank
you. I understand your presentation. Well understood. I respect your perspective. You know, giving us a depiction from your perspective of this and your diagnosis of something that's been mounted probably forever that I know about in my whole lifetime. This human condition that that you're discussing. I just want to know what I we talk about many issues and problems on this podcast weekly, and you know uh, I think Brother Quaba now was talking about how music, he uses that for example, music is affecting our children. Um, social media,
Yes, sir.
so and what I'm trying to tie that into is our thinking, our persuasion. How are we persuaded? From social media in our behavior. So of course, social media was not around, 50 years ago, but there's been media, of course, having influences and other influences, outside influences, inside influences that kind of mold our behaviors. School systems, like Sister Kathy was talking about, hey, she wished we would have had some kind of, we heard of sex education, things like that. Say no to drugs. There's been some attempts. Of course, those motives of those certain programs, questionable. There's insincerity in trying to mold the mind to think in this direction that you're talking. Trying to bring your being to its utmost self, to bring it to a higher level. It sounds like you're saying we're operating at a very low, at a low order, and um, so one thing is, what is your prognosis? What is your personal prognosis uh, on this human condition that you're talking about in terms of it, getting better? I mentioned social media, and I was talking about the music. What I was trying to tie into that was that social media has so much of an influence on many facets of many people's lives in a negative way. And so when it comes to trying to teach your children, the right way to do things, or organizations trying to teach people, there's a lot of competition with, the World Wide Web. It's incredible. So with that, with competing with that alone, in terms of, I know we always talk about the struggle. We never give up. We can save one, each one teach one, and that's the premise of this platform, you know. But I just want to know your honest opinion. What is your true prognosis? And of course, my cup is half full, not half empty. So
Teach,
I'm an optimist. But I
teach.
want to know your perspective on the prognosis, if you will.
Yes, sir. As an educator, I always, because like you said, right now, this is what we do. This is what we do. We're in it, and a lot of us are enjoying it. And we enjoy the from from the irresponsible reproductive activities. And I want you guys to know real quick before I address that I don't say sex because I don't want to demote the act of reproduction and mating. I don't want to empower Caucasian people to further demote the act of reproducing and mating to that of a recreational activity. So um we're in it. We enjoy it. We enjoy the food that compromises our reproductive activity in later ages, where we're taking Viagra pills in our 30s and 40s now. We enjoy it. So our youth, it's like what Sister Kathy Williams said, which is what I feel is the prognosis is the youth. We got to get them out of the schools. We got to separate and teach our own children. We have to demand what initially we demanded, but prior to Browns versus Board of Education, when South Carolina asked for separate but equal schools, and they actually got it. That the government had agreed to finance their school to make them commensurate with Caucasian schools until the NAACP protested it and made a full-fledged political cause campaign for integration. But that's what we need to do. It's about the young. If we teach them the benefits and the consequences of the benefits of practicing and preparing and practicing the 7 stages of courting, of no reproductive activity until they're married, until they have chosen and vetted a partner qualified to reproduce with, and made that normal again, and talked about all the consequences and the realistic issues that have come with the things that we're doing now, the diseases, all the things. I mean, there's so many that I haven't put in this, but there's so many things to teach about the consequences of doing other than that which is natural. It's about the youth, my brother. They're the only ones that, the ones that haven't dipped in the Pandora's box of premature reproductive gratification. They don't know how it feels, so they don't crave it. And they won't allow that to determine their exploitation of that feeling throughout the rest of their lives. Does that answer your question, big brother?
Yes, agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, big brother. Okay, so let me.
Oh, so you can continue.
All righty. Statement of effect. Humanity has a responsible mating and/or reproductive practice, normal practices that has compromised the reproduction of inadequate offspring that are ill prepared to survive on their own and jeopardize the evolution of their species. These immature, nonchalant mating rituals has interfered with once traditional mating selection process, resulting in poor mating selection, counter-reproductive habits, and a major stagnation in the evolution of the human family. Poor mating selection eventually compromises the reproduction of a worthy offspring capable of surpassing its parents. The inability of the progeny to surpass its parents compromises the evolution of humanity. The inability of the offspring to surpass its parents prevents the offspring from inheriting a greater potential to evolve physically, mentally, and spiritually, to not only become greater than the parents that produced him or her, but it also threatens the reproducer of future generations to successfully adapt to a changing world environment and or ecosystem that only they are qualified to overcome. This not only disqualifies them from reproducing, but if said individual were to reproduce offspring, it also causes them to reproduce an even weaker offspring that further compromise the species' ability to thrive amidst future challenges and contribute to the evolution of humanity, a practice that has unfortunately become the norm of the current generation. Each offspring born of properly mated parents is a product of the evolution of the parents, which ensure that they conquer and overcome the trials and tribulations that have yet to come for their own specific time and area in which they would experience. Just as their parents were reproduced by their progenitors to use their genius to evolve to conquer the challenges that have yet to come, so are their children to be a reflection of their genius in preparation to evolve to successfully endure, conquer, and overcome the future challenges that have yet to come as well. Previous generations are not capable of ensuring and eventually overcoming future challenges beyond their scope. They instead reproduce offspring that through both parents successfully fulfilling 5 out of the 6 stages of evolution, they have passed on all of the tools for the future generations to do it themselves. So basically, by making better selection choices in the past, from the previous generation, future generations successfully fulfill 5 out of the 6 stages of evolution. And they can successfully pass that to generation, the tools necessary for future generations to thrive. Each member of every living organism has two fundamental purposes that they must fulfill for their species. Two things that we are to accomplish in order to pay it forward, to commemorate the past and present respective species for sacrificing to give the offspring life is to themselves reproduce and evolve. To successfully accomplish these fundamental requirements, each offspring, after they are born, must nourish, grow, mature, and select a worthy mate. Once these stages are complete, the offspring is worthy to reproduce and contribute to the evolution of their species, thus ensuring the preservation, survival, and overall advancement of their species within an ever-changing society, environment, habitat, ecosystem, and overall planet. These 6 activities after birth include nourishment, growth, maturation, optimal, mate selection, ritual, reproduction, and evolution. They are required from all offspring upon their birth to ensure the survival, preservation, and advancement of the species. I know I get redundant in repeating it, but it's like, as a teacher, that's my thing. Repetition is the best teacher. I kind of just really kind of reinforce those 6 and reinforce the necessity to qualify yourselves to produce offspring that can surpass and overcome the challenges that are to come. Man and woman are to work together to create the best environment. Oh, wait a minute. I skipped to the solution, didn't I? I did. Effect, solution. You want me to continue to close this out? It's about to close with the solution.
Go ahead.
All
Go
right.
right ahead. Yeah.
All right. Man and woman are to work together to create the best environment to practice the act of reproduction and mating. They are to be committed to one another in a life bond that will be a conducive environment to raise a family and rear offspring. They must create an environment that has quality food, clothing, and shelter, an environment that provides safety, security, access to quality health care, and a clean and peaceful community. Both parents must create a productive home environment that enables the child to grow and mature physically, mentally, and spiritually. They must be helpers in creating communities instead of neighborhoods, and expose their children to positive role models, family, friends, and neighbors that value love, peace, and harmony, and the safety of each member in the community, children in particular. So that's the solution. I kind of didn't pause after I did the effects, I went straight into the solutions. But I basically spoke on the effects, and the solutions is coming together to create a harmonious, peaceful environment where we can teach each child, each offspring, the proper way to govern themselves, putting the best food in their body, able to work towards also acquiring the quality food, clothing, and shelter, making the proper mate selections, making sure their experience on survival is up to par so that they can be able to teach the next generation to do so and maintain the safety and security of their own household as well. All that's a requirement. And all that needs to be retaught to us, starting with the young, so that we can ensure that we have a higher percentage of those of our future generations that can accept this new teaching of proper practices, proper reproductive and mating selection practices. That's my presentation.
Okay, well, you know, what you're saying makes sense to me. And I understand fully when we're growing up in the conditions that we're growing up in. You know, I have people on here, we grew up on the same street, and we know what we were doing running up and down that street. And so it's a systematic assault that we talk about in this war that Hembrick talk about that's being brought upon us. And with that being, it's like you lose your way and you don't know. So yes, this information is excellent, and we need to look towards things like this in order to get where we need to be as people, and then we can evolve, you know, and grow. So this is why we have this platform. So let's go to Professor Rob, Brother Doctor. And then Sister Make It Happen, she popped in. So I'm glad she's here. So Professor Rob, question, comments, you on mute.
No, not right now. Go ahead with the others.
Okay, Brother Doctor.
No, not right now.
Okay. Sister Make It Happen, welcome. And did you hear anything that we were talking about and able to comment or ask a question on?
Well, I got a little bit of it, but it's definitely and peace and hotep and greetings to the fam. And so, yes, it's a topic that I'm very familiar with. So I can definitely say that I think it's a very important topic. And I am pleased that it's being discussed. And I'm glad to see we have, some presence here. And I think it's important for young adults, parents, as they're raising their children to understand kind of what their responsibility is. So I'm glad this is a great topic. So thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, now we could go back to Brother Machinda, Kathy, and Brother Hembrick. If you guys have a question or comment.
Just like to make a comment, since we're talking about, proper, evolutionary things with, the whole reproductive process. I just want to throw this out there. This is, the mate picking, that's something that needs to be really explored. I don't know what parameters you use for that, but this is something I just wanted to mention. After the child is here, born, and you kind of related a lot of things to nature. And in nature, the female feeds their own kid from their breast until they're able to consume more stronger food.
Brother Hembrick, can you get a little closer? Because we kind of low. The tone is low.
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, basically, how come the sisters don't like breastfeeding their babies? I think a lot of those health issues might occur from that because they're getting some from a foreign source other than themselves.
Yes, sir.
They talking about they don't want them to drag them down and all of that, but they didn't mind brothers sucking on them last night. So excuse me, sister, I don't mean no disrespect. I'm just saying, I'm just like keeping it real. But the dietary issues for me and research I've done personally on my own self, that results in a lot of, I don't know if that has anything to do with the premature sexual thing, but if you say so and you've done the research, I'll accept that. And you mentioned something else about when it came to education about doing our own, and you mentioned Brown versus Board of Education, said we want it separate but equal, and you made the statement that we got it. Did we?
Yeah, according to Dr. Claude Anderson's book, The Historical Reader, the History Reader, Black History Reader, he talks specifically. It poses questions, and he asked the question about what happened with the separate but equal, and integration, and he summarized it, and he made note of a book, of a couple of books as reference to this information that in South Carolina, the parents demanded that the state financed their schools to be reflective and equal, separate but equal to Caucasians because of the books and all the facilities, and that they agreed. The state agreed, and the NAACP came in and felt that that would be a setback for Black people, and they championed the cause for integration. And he mentioned in the book that that one move by NAACP began the destruction of Black schools, that where teachers were fired, superintendents were fired, staff were fired, janitorial staff was fired, principals were fired. We owned and controlled the districts and the schools, and those teachers were unemployed because they opened up the schools, the Caucasian schools, and bused our children to those schools where we were no longer teaching and working.
Okay, excuse me, brother. I don't want to drag on, but I kind of
Okay. Yes, sir,
misunderstood
go ahead.
what you were saying about we got it. And I took that to mean we got our own schools that were built equal in the book. But you meant that the statement that he made, we got it, is through integration.
Yeah, what I meant by we got it was the Supreme Court agreed, the court agreed in South Carolina. They agreed. They were like, okay, we're gonna give you the money. We're gonna make your schools equal and separate. And NAACP came on and said integration, destroyed it, took away the school, took away all the control and ownership. And it got me to think about, like, what if we would have kept our schools and made them equal to Caucasian schools? That means by 2022, all of our schools would have had like iPads. We would have had iPads to this day. Anything that Caucasian school had, we would have had as well. And we would have had Black people controlling those schools, administration, superintendents, and so forth, and teachers. So that's what he meant by they approved our demands. But the NAACP undermined that approval and made it a national, put millions of dollars in to nationalize the push for integration.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
So yes, going back to this, when you look at the whole thing and the intent of the United States, the founders, the powers to be, the intent, and I know you guys know what I'm about to say, was never for us to be not free. You know what I'm saying? That we came in as slaves. And when we, like Professor Rod talks about on a consistent basis, how we struggle to get to this point where we're afforded some type of comforts and abilities to do some things for ourselves through struggle. So when you have the NAACP doing what they did, they were just a pawn, in my opinion, a pawn for the power structure to disrupt what we do. And we have many examples of how we were put together by ourselves and began to thrive through what we do. And like Black Wall Street, that's one place. And we were able, when we do get together and able to do what we need to do for ourselves, this system will not allow us to thrive. We had the Negro baseball leagues. Okay, we had Negro baseball leagues. Was better than the major leagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what they do, they infiltrated that and integrated that and took the power away from the Negro baseball league. So we're like Hembrick always say, we're behind enemy lines. So whatever we do, they coming after us. So we have to, through reproductive practices and all of that, because we have taken on the personality of them, because we were forced, and then we corroborated with them to be like them. This is why we have these issues. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And I know you guys all know that, but it needs to be said. And then also we need to come up with ways to disrupt what's going on. And one way, and I take this from Neely Fuller, we need to become people on code and be constructive. That's the enemy of this system.
And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. I mean, I have a list of things that we do that we must eliminate in order for this process to take place. We have to eliminate liquor stores, brothels, prostitution, pimps, hustlers, fast food restaurants, junk food, casino, resorts, gambling spots, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, cigarillos, cigars, marijuana, guns, irresponsible reproductive activities, abortions, single parent households, gangs, strip clubs, bars, homelessness, unemployment, welfare, ghettos, projects, poverty. We got to get rid of all that so that we can get on the path of a divine spiritual evolution, a divine evolution that puts us on a path of what I call godhood, reflection of the Most High God. We're not, we're the first human beings ever created. So if the Creator created a reflection or image of himself, that means that we are gods, and we have to get back on the path of a spiritually divine evolution that will, in response to that, give us the powers and abilities that we are ordained to have upon completing the evolutionary process. Creation, manipulating atomic particles, doing so much. We're only accessing like less than 10% to 7% of our brain. We got like 90 some odd percent left that will, along with that brain function increasing with our evolution, our abilities to psychokinetically communicate without talking, other gifts will surface.
Yes, sir. So that's I still want to see if Professor Ron and Brother Doctor want to chime in on this. You're on mute, Ron.
I'll see what Brother Doctor have to say, then I'll make a comment.
Okay. Brother Doctor?
Really just interesting, my thoughts, man. I mean,
Yes, we do know.
it's a good concept, but hey, you had the brother on a couple of shows ago, and he had a phrase, the guy with the music. He was talking about D.L. Hughley. Hey, the horses already left that barn, man. So, it's what do you do, man? I mean, Brother Thomas come on with these moral things, man, which is 1,000% right, the way you should be living, the way you should be doing, but it's not reality. We are what we are, and that's the way it's going to be. It's not going to change. You guys talked about the schooling, and you're talking about the education that we need, but all you guys are professors and teachers in schools, man, and you guys teaching the worst schools in the country, and you can't do nothing about it. So we can sit and talk about how bad the schools are. You know how bad they are. You know how bad. Nothing's going to change. It goes to what side of the fence you're on. You talk about the term the greater good. You know the meaning of the greater good. Basically, do you kill one person to save five? That's the greater good. Like Brother Thomas said, hey, the whites are looking at survival, man. So do you kill the blacks to save the whites, the greater good? On the way they look at it. It's just, I think, man, we have to, this is what we're faced with. Look at reality, man. How do you deal with the reality?
Well,
we can come up with concepts, man, how it should be, the morally thing, but this is reality, man. So how do you change that? Just, fighting against that. It's tough, man. It's just tough to change, man. It's going to take hundreds of years to change it,
Well, it starts one step and one piece at a time. And either
But
you're
the
gonna
steps you're taking,
appreciate.
you're taking backward steps, though, man. So it's not going to work. We're going backwards.
Well, I don't, well, you can say we going backwards, but I'm not going backwards. So, okay, let's go to Professor Rod.
First of all, appreciate what's been said, if I understand correctly. I want to say, Sante Sana, my brother Thomas, for the excellent presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Deeply appreciate that presentation and all the information that you've shared. Yes. And let me just say, you know, the human is a complex individual. Societies and the various culture and ethnic groups are complex. They have different reasons why they do what they do. From an idealistic standpoint, as the good doctor said, you know, aspiration is hard to get the discipline that required to reach that aspiration. People want to be things, but they don't want to do the work to be it.
Yes, sir.
When it comes down to reproductive evolution, it's hard to prescribe to any individual a human compulsion such as sexual activity, how to do it and when to do it. You have different maturities at different levels. You have some girls 8 having their menstrual and breasts. You have some brothers at 8 and 9 with hair around their pubic area. They used to have breathing forms. Our parents married young. They married young, and a lot of old men married them. You understand? For economic reasons. And that's just the way it was. And then, I mean, you know, some people farmed their kids out because they, you know, they couldn't feed them, and they, men and boys and girls. So, you know, the evolution is that society, technology has changed. When our parents was growing up, they didn't have birth control. They have 17, 12, 13 kids. Deep in the rural areas of the South, the more kids you have, the more you play with each other because people were miles away from each other. They had land separation, plantation separation. So your family was your play.
Mm-hmm.
People had kids because, you know, they didn't know better. Just like people smoke cigarettes in the 20s and they catch cancers when they're 40. You know, in the 40s. And they didn't know that the cigarettes would give them cancer. Many people didn't know that promiscuity, as been mentioned, that various sexual activities would lead to some youth not having adequate nurturing, adequate birth, adequate growth, adequate, never dealt with the concept of maturity, never dealt with ideal mate selection. Some young ladies say, I just want a baby, and the man don't even have to take care of it. I just need one. I'm 30 years old and I haven't had no child, and I just want to have one. You got some men, hey, you know, it's about sexual consumption. Why? Because Shaft had more than one woman. Superfly had more than one woman. I come up, you know, I'm a product of my environment. But that's what Brother Doctor is saying and Brother Joe is saying. We're products of our environment. Without guardrails or cultural rails to keep us in a focus for a purpose to have children, a purpose, and a commitment to raise them from a value standpoint, an ethical standpoint, it's very hard. Dr. Barbara Sizemore said we don't have a single mother problem. We have men that won't get married. Dr. Amos Williams said that the child gets exposed to the culture while he's in the womb. That's why you have crack babies and alpha babies. You know, if the mother's going through changes, nervous, and have that, you know, the kid may come out with asthma. You don't know what. People consume drugs and alcohol It's a lot of things that go as the doctor said, that's the way it is. But there are many of us that have done the right thing. I met AC, the basketball player, Rashiki, AC Greenwood.
AC Green, yes.
Yeah. You know, he was playing with the Lakers. He said, you don't have sex. You know, there's a lot of men don't have no sex, but they still get prostate cancer because prostate cancer come when you're older. Sometimes it's genetic. Sometimes you eat too much red meat. Sometimes you catch it early, you can cure it. But the point is, you know, a lot of reasons people catch cancer is not just sex, or we all be dead. You understand? You know, it don't go that way. Women sometimes just have urges at early ages to experiment. You got to deal with incest. You got to deal with all kind of rapes and all kind of trickerations that goes on when it comes down to, I mean, I don't know. There are people that have sex with dead people, go to the graveyard or go to a mortuary and get in the casket with them. People do some strange things. Got rubber dolls and plastic dolls people buying at sex shops. So these compulsions, I don't know how they get stimulated, but that's on them. You know, I don't know how a cat gets stimulated on a girl. He's 50 and she's 12, but I don't know how he gets stimulated. But they're pedophilias, as Brother Horn was saying. Now, if you get in a religion, they give you guardrails and direction and purpose and direction. That's one thing. You get in a cultural group, they give you purpose and direction. That's another thing. You come from a home, they give you purpose and direction. We have had Black schools. We've had Black school districts where Blacks ran them. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but they weren't Black conscious. You know, some of them, some were, some weren't. Brother Chokwe Lumumba down there in Jackson dealing with a water crisis. You understand? His father was Chokwe Lumumba, who was one of the leading attorneys of the New African People Party, and he was the mayor first. He had a heart attack, then his son took over. And he said, look, we've been telling these people for years that we got to get this levee fixed, this water pump fixed. It's about $8 billion. We can't get the federal government. We can't get nobody to help us. And this is what happened. Now they say they bought a new pump and it's probably getting back up. But my point is that culture apparatus, family structure, it varies. You got some people that raise their kids strong and not religious. Some of them are atheists, but they see the world different than people that supposed to be Christian, supposed to be Muslim, but have a lot of problems. The point is that the evolution of life is the evolution of life. We were children at one time. Look at us now. That's evolution. Evolution is a challenging thing. We used to have a phone with a long black cord, a big phone looked like a weight. You understand? Now you walk around with a phone upside your head, stuck like perma-glue. It's a different game out there. And that's what Joe is talking about, what the good doctor is talking about. When he said, hey, it's out the barn. Now, how do we get it together? You can't. You can get some people together. You can get some people to prescribe. I didn't have my first child until I was out of college. My two sons didn't have their children until they were out of college. You understand? My two oldest daughters had their children while they were out. It's a different thing, but we stuck together as a family and they all got college degrees. What can you do? My point is that, Brother Thomas is right for raising this issue about the need for nurturing our people to evolve to the highest lengths that they could with a family structure and a meaningful purpose appropriation, having children for a purpose, to raise them to be the best that they can be. But sometimes you need resources. People sell children. People kill children. Leave them at the fire station. But we got some people that do the right thing. And we need to always praise the people that do the right thing. We got 100 Black colleges at one time, about 95 now left. Well, most of them were religious schools, land grant, but they still exist. They produce the majority of Black graduates in the country. Always have and always will. So I accept everybody equal. You can go there, but most of them in the South, and they're very expensive to send your kids there. The same thing here. You wherever you are, if you're Black conscious, you turn that into it. When Joe Emmerich was in teaching and Rashaki teaching, they turned their classes into learning labs. Even though it's a predominant ran by the state or either that, but hey, they give them some sacred knowledge. Sacred knowledge. When you go to the mosque, when you go to the synagogue, when you go to church, mosques is for Muslims, synagogues for Jews, churches are for Christians. They're all cults. They all believe in a God that's going to help them. They're just cults. You understand? A cult is who's doing the believing. These cults is what you believe in. Maybe Muhammad, Jesus, or Abraham. And then there are a lot of other subcults out there. Yoruba communities, Geechee communities in North Carolina. They have their own set of rules, man. As the good doctor was saying. What do? You teach like Brother Thomas is doing. And like I did for 34 years. Some accept your wisdom and your knowledge. Some don't. Some will come back and say, man, I listened to you and I did what you asked. And I'm successful, thank you. You wish they'd throw some dollars out to you. Hey, you so successful, give me a couple of thousands you got. But most of the time it's just, hey man, I remember what you said. So it was a good lesson tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Professor Rob. Thanks, everybody. Brother Thomas, any concluding words?
Yeah, the presentation was basically on behavior changes and actions that any universal Black man, woman, and child can inherit that will have the result of a divinely guided reproductive evolutionary process. Regardless of whatever, I like to take that position of Marcus Garvey and leave religion at home, and we just come dealing with the issues that we need to address and successfully address and overcome the issues and the problem within our people. And the sexual activity on average, like myself, I waited until I got married to explore reproductive activities. I didn't do anything in high school, didn't do anything in college until I got married at 27. And there's a lot that I gained from that discipline as a man, maturing as a man, waiting till I was qualified by marriage and my reproductive organs mature enough to be able to control that desire that a child, a teen, even a person in their 20s that hasn't really developed the discipline and the maturity to be able to control post reproductive activities, able to control the desire, the drive, And I believe that as an example, that was another factor that motivated me to present this topic. Is I lived a certain way. I do with this currently, and And the nation has rehabilitated a lot of young men out of prisons, on the streets, who practice irresponsible, premature reproductive behavior. And they all, with that discipline that Baba Ra was talking about, accepting the culture of being obedient to a law that restrained that enable you to restrain your natural desires to be with the opposite gender, and then practice the eating and the lifestyle and the fasting, the prayer, the meditation, or whatever you practice to give yourself a peace of mind. All the things that I've stated in the presentation was a product of the discipline that one has to incur just to begin on that path of a divinely guided reproductive evolution, spiritual, mental, and physical evolution. So it's a universal. It's just something that that I've studied that would be beneficial for all of us. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot. Nobody wants to stop eating the way they're used to eating. They don't want to stop drinking the foods that you drink. One will ever stop, satisfying their reproductive desires without limits, without controls. Strip clubs, sports bars, all that stuff has to be given back to the Caucasian inhuman being that forced us to be other than ourselves, in order for us to get back on the path of godhood, of a divinely guided spiritual evolution. But you're right, Baba Ra and Brother Doctor. It's not for everybody, because not everybody has the testicular fortitude to do it. And there's going to be casualties because of that. There's casualties now. People are dying because they don't have the testicular fortitude to clean their life up, to discipline themselves, to do what's naturally healthy for their body, mind, and spirit. And that's the purpose of the presentation, is to bring that awareness to the forefront for us and for the future of our children. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Brother Thomas. Appreciate everything. Yeah, I want to thank everybody this evening for coming out and spending time discussing Brother Thomas' topic. And we just got to keep doing what we're doing, because it's a vessel for people who want to, find something different that's going to lead to a better situation. This is why we do what we do here. And I just appreciate everybody taking their time out to do this. So next week, we have the guest is going to be Kevin G. And the topic is how we address ourselves is power. So this is another shoot off of what Brother Kwabena was talking about. When I talked to this brother, I met him through one of our other guests, and he was talking about the N word. So he's a big opponent of the N word. So that should be interesting. All right, folks, it's been real, and I appreciate everybody. So each one teach one in Conscious Corner. Have a good evening.